Alert! This is not a drill. We have a major Matt Mercer lore dump, everybody. That's right, in this week's episode of Critical Role Campaign 3, episode 74, Matt drops some major game-breaking lore on the future of Critical Role Campaign 3, as well as some major backstory for several of our party. So strap yourselves in. Obviously, spoiler warnings, and let's just get right into it. So as you guys know, if you watch my videos, I am a major Critical Role fan, and I love Critical Role Campaign 3, but man, has it been slow lately, but not anymore. That's because last night, Matt Mercer dropped some major Critical Role lore for our homie Ashton, as well for just much of the future of Critical Role Campaign 3, the big fight with Lewdness and FraudOnTheTele, the Eater of Gods, and just major big reveals for the future of Critical Role Campaign 3, and links to EXU Calamity.
You have a poison in your mind, and the fact that you can't see it makes me so sad.
In last night's episode, our party managed to finally speak to the ancient Gaudrasari, ancient druid tree of Entrevere. If we remember, this tree was once an ancient druid in our world of Exandria, a Gaudrasari druid. This is the clan of druids from EXU Calamity, from pre-Calamity times, that would eventually become the Ashari druids that we know now of today in Critical Role. That makes our tree homie here easily one of the oldest living characters, if you want to call them a living character in Critical Role lore. I think they might be the oldest, but there's a few who probably beat them. So here, finally, in front of this all-knowing tree, our party asks some major questions on the future of Critical Role. So finally, our party meet with this ancient druid tree, where they ask them a number of questions, starting with Ashton on the nature of their backstory. So far, what we know of Ashton's backstory is that they were once a Hishari druid, this kind of strange cult of druids that rose up over the last, I believe, like 10, 20-ish years in Exandria. This cult of druids basically like kind of worshipping the primordial titans of Critical Role of Exandria. Druids eventually finding some ancient primordial power, and all of them ended up dying except for Ashton. So finally we get confirmation that Ashton is the child of Efterin, the leader of this Ashari tribe. The ancient tree druid revealed to Ashton's father the relic, this ancient primordial relic. A relic that we find out is the Shard of Camort, a kind of remaining shard of this ancient primordial titan. Now you should recognize the name Camort as being one of the ancient primordial titans of Exandria, one of the titans that the betrayer gods attempted to free when the calamity started, and that ultimately were destroyed and not released. Basically, this is the plot of EXU Calamity and the falling of the flying city of Avalier, ultimately destroying the continent of Dominus, which is now the Shattered Teeth. I hope you guys are taking notes, because this shit goes deep. I was telling you all for a while now that EXU Calamity and the events of it were going to be very much intrinsically linked with Critical Role Campaign 3, and here we are. So basically, Ashton's dad had this major ambition to basically worship these primordial titans and bring them back in some capacity. According to the tree, he was meant to destroy the entire Hishari. Ultimately, he was meant to create Ashton. We learned that the reason why Ashton has the blood of a titan is literally because Ashton, they have the Shard of Camort inside of them. In this ancient ritual that Ashton's father did, which killed all of the Hishari, ultimately it created Ashton in the kind of modern, like primordial, like blood of the titan person that they are. This gave me like super Star Wars vibes, with like the relation between like Anakin and Luke, and like the prophecy of the chosen one and bringing balance to the Force. I don't know if anyone else saw this or thought this, but instantly that's kind of what my mind went to. The tree and Ashton go back and forth a little bit, Ashton talking about how they are a nobody and refuse to like accept their destiny. There's a lot of themes of destiny and fate in Campaign 3. Again, this is something that I've talked about like multiple times here. Ultimately, the tree tells Ashton that they must collect a second shard of a titan, the Heart of Raushan. Excuse me, the Spark of Raushan, but the Heart of Raushan also sounds pretty cool. Raushan being the other primordial titan that was supposed to be released by the betrayer gods in EXU Calamity. Watch EXU Calamity. It seems like Ashton is very much a central key figure in the ultimate fight with Lewdness and FraudOnTheTele, as Ashton contains the kind of almost primordial balance of nature, this power that ultimately always existed throughout the history of Exandria. Now it seems like Ashton is basically going to fulfill that role, or possibly Ashton and one other, as the tree said that it would potentially be dangerous for Ashton to have both of these shards of these titans inside of their body, so they might need another person to have the shard, to carry this other shard. Who knows who that could be? Our cast asks a number of other questions, like how do we stop FraudOnTheTele? The tree gives a bunch of like non-direct answers, something along the lines of like, your future is to make make the choice for the future of the gods. No pressure there. And then the tree asks them, what do you believe in? What is right for this world? They ask, what will happen if the gods fall? The tree says, skies will crack, beings of impossible fathomability step from the heavens. The lattice shatters, light and shadow leave, chased away by Predathos, left below the world lay bare. But now this makes sense. We know the betrayer gods and the prime deities, beside hating each other, are both very scared of Predathos and likely will align in some fashion to fight or potentially deal with Predathos. Because if not, they're basically going to have to run away from this crazy red being. It's kind of crazy that we still have no idea what Predathos is or what it looks like or what exactly is going on there. As well, the tree makes another really interesting line about the nature of divinity and the nature of gods in Critical Role, saying specifically, the divinity, the divine, are pilgrims. They are pilgrims made idols. They are not makers, but crafters, shapers. They take what is found and remake it into something new. Is that their nature, or are they a reflection of us? Now, this is also another theme that's gone through Critical Role Campaign 3 and EX2 Calamity. Really, Critical Role as a whole is the nature of divinity. The fact that mortals themselves can ascend to godhood, bringing into the question in general, what is divinity? We know as well in the Critical Role universe that gods receive their power through the worship of mortals. So the question is this their nature, or are they a reflection of us? Is interesting, and it seems as though, if I had to guess, that the gods in many aspects are a reflection of the mortals who probably worship them. It's interesting because it leads me to believe that in order for the gods to be saved, in order for Exandria to be saved from Predathos, their nature, their inherent nature must change, which would necessarily potentially mean that the mortals themselves who worship the gods must also change. Ultimately, our scene here ends as this party are being scryed on, presumably by Ludinus, but who really knows, and the tree transports them to a cold, mountainous region, seemingly to find the spark of the Titan, the spark of Camort. Oh, as well, I also thought it was interesting because we know that Keyleth came to this tree, came to Avantravir to speak to them after Vax's death, and it seems likely that Keyleth came there to speak with Vax, or to at least see Vax, because we know that this tree is like a harbinger of like life and death. According to the tree itself, they are like a portal between life and death, and they represent balance for Exandria. So that's just my theory, but that would be my guess. Keyleth most likely went to this tree to speak to Vax. I'm still curious to see how Chetney's story is going to eventually link somehow into the greater story, as well as FCG, as it seems like every character in some aspect, their lore is linked into this story. In some kind of a way. As well, what do you think about the nature of the gods in Critical Role? And do you think that we're most likely going to see like a prime deity betrayer god team up in some fashion before Campaign 3 is over with? I certainly do. As always, guys, thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, learned something new, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. This was a bit of a rambly video, so thank you all for being patient with me. As always, I hope to see you in the next one. Drink your water, hug your mother. Until next time, peace, love, adu.